Hello, good morning, and a very warm welcome to you from a cold and grey London. But wherever you are today in the world, a very warm welcome to you, and thank you for joining us for what promises to be a wonderful webinar this morning. Our last webinar was with Andrea Zafaraiku, and I hope many of you tuned in, but if you didn't, it's still available on our website. And it was a fascinating webinar talking about the role of teachers and how many of them have become social workers and perhaps even surrogate mothers to the children that they teach. And moving on from that, we wanted to look at the next phase of a learner's life in terms of skills and employability. And we wanted to look at how COVID has impacted that across the world in these last couple of years, and what organizations are doing in order to drive impact and to drive skills into young people. And for that, I am delighted today to be joined by a wonderful group of people. I'm sure you'll love listening to them. And they are from the Prince's Trust, Joe Parsons, and three of their global partners, In Jazz, Souls, and Say, who will come on to shortly. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for your time this morning, and we look forward to listening to what you have to say on this. It's a very important subject, and I think it's going to be something that's going to be even more important in the years going past, with the pandemic as it is, and with the employment situation that we see around the world. So, Joe, if I could start with you. Joe is the Director of Delivery and Impact at the Prince's Trust. And she's worked in the social sector for almost 20 years, and over 7 at the Prince's Trust, working for young people to get their employment and enterprise to create better futures for them, I guess. And so welcome, Joe. Thank you so much for your time this morning and for coming on this webinar. I wanted to start by asking you, tell us a little bit about the name. Where did the Prince's Trust get its name from?
Thank you, Mahol, and morning. Working within the Prince's Trust International is a sister charity of the Prince's Trust in the UK, which is one of the largest youth charities that's been around for around 4 decades. And the Prince's Trust International branch started in 2015, founded by His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales. And that was really to tackle the global crisis of youth unemployment. And it was very much born of that 40 years of experience and then taken internationally, where we work with in-country delivery partners to support young people across 13, soon to be 18 countries.
And give us a little bit of an idea about what you do in these countries. What sort of things do your partners actually get up to? What do they do?
Sure. So that's a really broad question, Rahul, because certainly when working with young people, we recognise that to sort of support them in their futures, it's really about everything from education as young as 11 years old, all the way through to employment and entrepreneurship opportunities up to the age of 30. So Prince's Trust International offers a host of different projects and programme interventions that can support young people in achieving that. And those programmes could be in schools, or they could be taking part in the community, which you'll hear about a little bit later. And we work directly with those in-country delivery partners to deliver those programmes, whilst then also offering support and advice and expertise in areas like safeguarding, programme design and impact, ultimately to support as many young people globally as we can into bigger, brighter futures where, you know, they're working, they are in great careers and, you know, reaching their real potential.
Fantastic. And I understand we've got a short video to talk a little bit about the work that you do. So perhaps let's start with the video and then we can carry on discussing this further. Joe, some amazing stories and some amazing statistics. Clearly, you found ways to work around the pandemic and continue to have impact. What would be good to understand is how you measure impact and what do you see the impact as being from the last few months, and perhaps just shed light on some of the stats that were on the in the video.
Sure, certainly. So yeah, I think a really challenging year last year with the pandemic, which we've all felt all over the world. And I've got to say, it's been really interesting working in this international role and seeing how the challenges have been so very different in different regions and different countries and different for different young people. And that in itself has meant that measuring the impact has been a really interesting journey for us in the last year. As you can see, last year, the need was greater than ever. We supported 95% more people than we had the year before. Wow. And this year, we're hoping to do the same again and support sort of over 15,000 young people this year. We're on track to sort of support. And that very much is in response to the need out there of young people. And last year, we saw 66% of the young people that we work with through our partners identifying as female. And we know that generally young girls have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic as well. So again, really sort of responding to that need. The variety and portfolio of our programs means that we measure our impact in various ways. So we measure skills development in young people across all of our programs. We also do lots of qualitative research and interviews with delivery partners, with local governments and teachers and young people to understand about their skills development, as well as measuring educational attainment, such as qualifications that they complete during the program. And we also measure hard outcomes. So the percentages of young people that actually move into either full-time education or a job. And I'm really, really proud to say that despite the challenges that we saw in the pandemic last year, over 68% of these young people did move into those permanent employment roles. I'm sure you can imagine was a challenge, particularly for some areas where we've seen places like tourism industries and so on hit incredibly hard over the last year. And we've had to really adapt our delivery model with our partners to be able to do that and where possible during the pandemic, deliver virtually. In fact, last year, 79% of our delivery happened virtually with young people in response to the pandemic. Which meant as an organization, a very quick pivot to developing digital content, moving our face-to-face delivery content into a way that was more accessible to people. And I have to say that our delivery partners have been exceptional in how they've responded to that and really paved the way. The other big area of impact that I'd want to mention is how we work with partners. So partnership is really at the center of what we do. And feedback from our partners is exceptionally important. And we want to understand how we're supporting, whether that be in advice through impact measurement, safeguarding, as I mentioned, or program design. So we also measure our impact of how we can support our delivery partners as well.
So a couple of things just wanted to pick up. The stats that you mentioned are all in an impact report, I understand, that you produce. And for those of you who've registered, we'll be sending you a copy of that. But if you want a copy, please contact us and we'll be happy to send that to you, because the stats actually are quite remarkable that you've managed to, in such a short time, pivot, as you say, to provide, almost 80% of everything you do virtually. I mean, that's quite remarkable for some of the countries that you work in, which, have other challenges of infrastructure and so on. I'm intrigued to understand, and, we're grateful that you brought 3 of your partners here today, but when you're thinking about partnerships, when you're thinking about partners, how do you actually pick a partner? What is it that you look for?
That's a really, really good question. I think for us, obviously making sure that the need is there for us to support, is there a challenge in terms of employment or education of young people in that area? And then identifying with partners that have shared values and goals as ours, where we can collaborate and work in true partnership. And that really being the most important thing that we would want to identify. We do go through quite a rigorous due diligence process when selecting partners to work with, to really ensure that we are completely aligned with those things as well, and that we can add value to each other's organisations as we collaborate and work together. Because I think, as I've said, partnership is key to what we do, which means that you've got to make sure that that partnership is the absolute right fit. And we have dedicated teams that work in country, go out to countries to identify and work with partners. And then we also collaborate with our extensive networks of governments, local NGOs that we have relationships with in those countries as well. So often, we'll be introduced to potential delivery partners by one of those connections because they're highly regarded, or they feel that we're doing some work in a similar space and could really benefit from working together in collaboration.
And so you deliver so you create the courses and the programs, and then the partners actually deliver them for you in these countries, which sounds like a very good model to actually be able to go across as many countries as you do. So in those countries, I think you mentioned 18 earlier. Where have you seen the biggest challenges in terms of employment?
Oh, that's a really difficult question, I think, Mahal, because we've seen different demographics and different areas affected. I would say that probably some of the areas that we work in that are most reliant on the leisure and tourism industry in employment have been affected a huge amount, and probably where we would work with employers in those countries through our partners to identify jobs, we've really had to expand the sectors that we support young people into work with, because those are now less in demand. And we've seen redundancies and young people coming onto programs who've lost their jobs during the pandemic as well. So some of those more reliant areas we've seen in the Caribbean, for example, they've not only had COVID to compete with, but they've also had several hurricanes, a volcano fallout, which meant further shutdown as well. Similarly, we've then seen other countries that have had second or third lockdowns, others that have been a little bit more strict in that, and others that haven't. So it's very difficult to say anywhere has been more affected than another, but very much in different ways. But I'd say that certainly the leisure and tourism area has been really noticeable. And also young women and girls, as I mentioned, in the pivot towards working digitally. Internationally, we have seen young girls have less accessibility to devices such as computers, where sometimes in family homes, the young boys may get priority of that use of computers and things as well. So that has certainly been very noticeable too.
A couple of interesting facts that we picked up in one of our earlier webinars was that according to UNICEF, this year about 800 million children were behind in their schooling or not back at school because of lockdowns. And we've heard, previously that girls have been adversely affected, not only for the reasons you mentioned, but many of them have additional responsibilities at home. And so, at home they're, asked to focus on those as opposed to doing remote learning and so on. And it just, makes it difficult. So, Joe, I'd like to move on to one of your partners, Muhannad Al-Jarrah from Injaz, because I understand that they've had a very strong impact on education and employability and skills for girls particularly. So, Muhannad is from Injaz in Jordan, and the executive director of at Injaz, which basically has been training corporates and schools and kids for a long time, and is one of the the biggest NGOs in that country. So, Muhannad, welcome to our webinar, and tell us a little bit about the aims of the programs that you run.
Hello all, thank you for hosting us. Well, we run a program called Enterprise Business Challenge. It's a Princess Trust program. And basically, this model is about really building the skills of young people, the entrepreneurship skills and the business skills. So it's about really business simulation where young people will have the opportunity to go and really to know how business is running. So this simulation, through the simulation, the young people will try to understand the decisions that they are making and it's affecting their business. So actually, they start their own startups and they start to play against the computer. So, for example, if the competitors drop their price, how they will react to it. So if they keep the price, they might, lose market share. But if they drop the price, that might affect the quality. So the students need to make informed decisions, business decisions, to understand how really business works about. So it's about building the skills, the entrepreneurship skills, and understanding how enterprises really operate. And how we do this is really through linking a private sector and academia. So actually, we recruit mentors from businesses and private sector, and we link them to schools in Jordan to transfer their actual business skills to our students on ground. So that's an overall brief of the program.
And Muhammad, I saw recently that His Royal Highness Prince Charles actually came to Jordan and visited your programs. That sounds really exciting, amazing, really. Tell us a little bit about that. I think we also might have a photo of him there. There you are. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that was really very exciting indeed for our young people and for us. And His Royal Highness actually met the young people who have been benefiting from the Enterprise Business Challenge, and he actually talked to them directly through an event where he have seen the impact on our young people and how such a program is really having a very positive impact. And the projects that he have seen in Jordan really focused on sustainable energy and about renewable energy. And some of these projects, actually, during the visit, we had some corporate and private sector, and they came also to see this. And they actually, the students were able to fundraise seed funding for them. So really, His Royal Highness really interacted with the students, and the students left really the event more inspired and determined to continue their entrepreneurship journey forward.
Excellent. And I think the fact that somebody like His Royal Highness taking an interest in the sort of work that you do must actually help in terms of the impact and your ability to drive the enthusiasm within young people in Jordan.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Just having the chance to meet His Royal Highness directly, that's something great for the program and for the young people, and really it gives the momentum forward for the young people to see that His Royal Highness is actually in direct contact with them, and he's listening directly and seeing the impact directly and supporting and patronage the program which he started, as Joe said in the beginning, in the UK. So it's a really great thing to see. And personally, I have seen the impact, the spark in their eyes, when he talked to them. And really, the event was so positive, full of energy and excitement.
Excellent. Fantastic. And one of the things I wanted to ask you was that you have made a lot of impact with girls, particularly. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you manage it, and what sort of impact are you seeing?
Yeah, the Enterprise Business Challenge, we have working with PTI, we were able to really introduce and to reflect the gender lens inside our program. So all the language, all the communications, the gender lens has been integrated into the Enterprise Business Challenge. And this was very important, and we were the first in Jordan, and I think in the region, who have introduced the gender lens in the Enterprise Business Challenge. because it's important to do that as we deliver the program. And we have seen how this has reflected very positively to the young girls in the schools who are really benefiting from this program. And having the gender lens, we have seen the impact on girls, their aspiration to start a business. And actually, this program is a hands-on program. It's not a theoretical program, because it goes into 3 stages. And first, they have to really play the simulation and do the decisions on the simulation. And then after that, they have to go into to do their project, and they have to design their project and pitch it to judges who will judge their project. And then they have to go to a regional finals, and then go to the finals on a national level. So we have seen how girls who were working on this project, their aspiration is so high, and they really came up with very interesting projects. Like one of the interesting projects that I have seen, actually, His Royal Highness was in Jordan, and he has seen that also, is the medical product that the girls were able really to produce, having medical soup, where they actually they can be very beneficial to skin and so on. So to see such a product out there is really a real proof of the impact of such a programs on girls.
Fantastic. And what changes have you had to make because of COVID? How have you adapted the program?
Yeah, when COVID hits, as any organization, we never expected this to happen. So at the beginning, it was very, very challenging at the beginning, because the delivery of our programs were in-person deliveries. So we had to stop and redesign our work, and we have initiated a portal, and we have moved our delivery, the Enterprise Business Challenge delivery, to be an online, and our other programs too. And actually, we were able to innovate there more, where there were challenges with hardwares and the internet connectivity, especially in the remote areas. And this is where actually we're able to introduce the virtual PCs, where actually the students can log to these virtual PCs. And through this, we were able to deliver, and we actually mitigated our work with the donors, so the students do not have to pay the internet fees and so on. So and actually, delivery online skills is different from skills in person. And this is where we had to introduce these skills to the mentors and to the volunteers by conducting special trainings and introducing the safeguarding policy with the guidance of PTI.
And have you seen any difference in terms of the take-up and the impact because of this new approach?
Yes, definitely, because the most important challenge that we were all able to overcome is to have the educational process to be an interactive process. It should not be one way, and this is where having the mentors interacting with the students directly, and rather just seeing a YouTube or reading a chapter, download a PDF. So this interaction, the real-time interaction, is so important, and this is where actually we have seen the difference between running a program, just having the materials online, compared to what we have done with the Enterprise Business Challenge, which was very interactive with the volunteers and mentors, with the students and the teacher, all together in the same portal.
Fantastic. We have a short video that I want to play on your program, and I think it'll show the reality of what happens on the ground, and then I think let's carry on after that. We'll just come on to the video now.
أنا لحظة حماس لما نتعلم إشي جديد. أنا الابتسامة اللي بتنرسم بقلوبنا لما نتعرف على أصحاب جداد ونعيش معهم لحظات حلوة.
إجا برنامج تحدي الأعمال من إنجاز عشان يحط مجموعة هدول الشباب في بداية أعمالهم على بداية طريق الريادة.
أنا بخلال برنامج تحدي الأعمال اتعرفت على ناس جديدة، منهم الطالبات اللي بشتغل معهم ومنهم المتطوعين اللي دربونا على اللعبة التعليمية.
التجربة اللي عشناها إنه غير عن المدرسة كاملة وأول مرة إحنا بنجربها، فإنه حسيتها كتير تجربة حلوة.
عرفت إني أنا في برنامج تحدي الأعمال، برنامج تابع لمؤسسة عالمية اللي هي مؤسسة الأمير تشارلز. انبسطت كتير إنه فكرتي ممكن توصل لناس كتير للعالم.
مهارات تعلمتها من تحدي الأعمال أن أكون مجازف وعدم الاستسلام عشان أحقق هدف.
كنت مفكرة إنه ممكن نفتح شركة بكل سهولة، إنه خلاص نحدد قطعة أرض ونكتب على النت إنه شركة كذا كذا وخلاص فتحت الشركة. لكن بعدين بعد ما دخلت على برنامج تحدي الأعمال عن جد فهمت كيف هي الشركة بالأساس.
أنا أول خطة لمشروع صممناه وطلعت مش ناجحة فزعلنا، لكن عدناها مرة ومرتين وثلاثة. أنا اللمة الحلوة اللي منتشاركها مع أصحابنا بعد ما نكون اشتغلنا وتعبنا وتناقشنا واختلفنا واتفقنا، هب 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 تنجح الفكرة. أنا ساعدت 2000 طالب وطالبة من الصف التاسع بكل إشي تعلموه ببرنامج تحدي الأعمال، وأنا الابتسامة اللي على وجوهكم هلأ لما عشتوا معنا هاي اللحظات. شكراً.
Amazing. I think the one thing that comes across is the excitement in those young people's faces and the enthusiasm that they have, and it's so wonderful to see. So thank you, Mohamed. I want to move on now to Daniela at Souls in Malaysia. So Daniela's been a executive director for and spent over 13 years working in non-formal and other community types of education. Welcome to the webinar, Daniela. I wanted to start by asking you, tell us a little bit about your vision and what it is that Souls does.
Yes, Mehul, thank you. Now, Souls has been active around for slightly over 20 years. So it was about time for us to look into the strategy for the following 20 years. And as part of that strategy in the current phase, Souls works to support youth in continuing their education post-secondary school and going into employment, while also equipping them for further progression in their careers and personal lives. Currently, we are at the stage of creating impact and proving the model in Malaysia, but there are already efforts to expand to Indonesia and other Southeast Asian countries. Now, hopefully, soon after, this model will be taken over by the government and implemented nationwide for the targeted beneficiaries.
Fantastic. And tell us a little bit about how you work with the Princess Trust. What sort of programs do you work on?
Our collaboration with the Princess Trust International is in implementing the Achieve program in Malaysia. This is a personal development and employability skills for young people, a program for young people. But to be honest, I think it's better to hear directly from the teachers and from some of the students that attended the first edition of this program in Malaysia. And we do have a video ready for that. So maybe we can play the video.
Fantastic. Let's watch that.
Hello, I am Ayu Majid. I am a teacher from Remote AI Degree Center.
Hi, my name is Miri Adik. I am a teacher, also known as an advisor for Achieve program in Kampung Coastal Community Center. So Achieve program is a special program from Prince Trust International London, which offers several modules for youth self-development. There are two modules taken. First is planning for personal development. Second one is community project.
So in community project, we have 3 chosen activities by the students. So they believe that they say these 3 community projects would beneficial the community. So the activities are gardening, sport day, and also community service.
The program is good and suitable for the youth, the development of young people, especially teenagers who live in the village who do not have opportunity to learn such program. So this program really helps these indigenous youths to develop themselves and their career. So it teaches them some skills that are very important for themselves, such as problem solving, self-confidence, teamwork, and presentation skills. Usually, these young people prefer not to try new things because of their shyness, low self-confidence, and people don't trust on them to do something. So from these 2 modules, these young people are given the opportunity to participate and to carry out some tasks for their group project. So as an advisor, I only monitor and provide guidance. everything is done by these young people. So they successfully run the project step by step with their group, and they are very happy because at the end of the project, they could prove to the villagers and the community that young people also can run the program by their own.
Hi, my name is Batia bin Zainal. I'm 19 years old and I'm from Kampung Hanya Post 12. After I joined this program, I have improved a lot, especially in my communication level and my confidence level. And I would like to say thank you for CHIP program because it gave me a chance, and also I want to say thank you to Souls because they brought the program into my village. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Daniela, very impressive. And what's so good to see is that the skills that you're providing through Achieve are the sorts of skills we know are in such short supply and are the sort of things employers want. What kind of impact have you seen? I mean, I'm sure that these people, when they then go out into the employment market with these skills, they must find it a lot easier than they would otherwise to find good employment.
Definitely. Thank you for that. And it's true because the Achieve program is designed in a modular fashion that allows the delivery partner to pick and choose the exact modules that the respective, let's call them market, that the respective students would need. So there are way more units in the program itself, but particularly we've selected these according to our experience working with young people, a particular young people that we are engaging with. Now, the impact has positively affected their education outcomes, but also their employment outcomes. In education, we still get, even 6 months later, 8 months later, we get personal testimonials sent to their teachers to say, you know, thanks to the skills that I've learned in this program, I just scored the maximum and my GPA has increased. I finally have hopes of moving further into my education. And even thanks to these skills, now my classmates come to me to coach them on presentation skills and confidence and public speaking. And these are young people that had started the program with a lot of shyness and low self-confidence. So it goes beyond the classroom, so to speak, in terms of the impact. Now, a number of young people, as soon as they exited the program, from the group that you got to see in the video, they started their own businesses. They started small businesses in the village because the employment opportunities were limited. These are indigenous people that live in remote communities, and they were very reluctant to leave their families behind during the pandemic. So their opportunities to generate income were heavily affected, I would say. So with these new skills and with the encouragement and the empowerment from the advisors, and also through the structure itself of the Achieve program, the delivery approach relies on young people initiative. And you could see that the advisor said, I mainly monitor and guide, but they are the ones doing most of the work. And it's a lot based on peer sharing and peer learning. And this is something that 90% of the students declared that they had never experienced before. So it broadened their horizons on how to work together and even how to work as individuals.
And your advisors, you know, especially working with indigenous people in remote villages, I assume that there were challenges of you know, getting there, of infrastructure, of devices, or because of the nature of the way the program is run. How did your advisors adopt over the last couple of years to the pandemic?
Well, a lot of patience and a lot of innovation and creativity, I would say. To begin with, we were not allowed to enter just about any village during the pandemic. So our teachers went back to their home villages. And there were challenges there as well, because they were still perceived as the children of the village, not as educators with knowledge and authority. So themselves setting up the center, that was an endeavor of courage. And getting to engage with the chiefs of village, persuading the community that this is something that is worth their attention was the first challenge. Then the second, the infrastructure. Not have electricity. So even with additional equipment that was brought in, our teachers still had to travel sometimes a few miles away to be able to even communicate to us, provide reports, or get support. So there was a mix of using technology, but also using the old ways. And in that, the program had that component of in-person delivery. And there was also a fully online delivered component of Achieve. And the set of challenges was different for both.
And what was the impact, in the last year compared to, say, the year before, before COVID? How have you seen that change?
Well, I must say that I will skip the expected impact and I will go into the unexpected impact. One of the most unexpected aspects of this program was the fact that young people were heavily affected emotionally and socially by the pandemic, and they found their escape in the program. They found an opportunity to meet new people, to socialize, because their schools had been closed. There was this uncertainty. I believe Joe was saying that in some countries, the lockdowns were stricter than in others. And in Malaysia, definitely the lockdowns were very strict. And they kept on being extended 2 weeks by 2 weeks, which added a lot of stress on young people. But their own parents, this being the bottom 40% economic strata in Malaysia, so their own parents were going through their own struggles. Parents didn't have the time or the skills to support their youth, their young children. And it came to class. All of that social, emotional heaviness and weight came into the class. And our advisors would take it on, and then they would come back to the team and say, hey, this is what's transpiring from the students. How do we handle this? How do we support them more? So there was a resilience component to Achieve that was not originally in plan, but we had to bring it in to ensure that it had to be tailored. So in that area, we had an expected impact. And of course, there was an improvement in digital skills, which again, originally through the in-person delivery was not even counted. But we had to include it. And as part of the digital skills, I would have to mention safeguarding online. It became the topic of the day for the team throughout the implementation because the risks are so high. And even us as an organization, we had to learn so much at a very fast pace because we couldn't afford to expose the students to unwanted risks.
Absolutely. And how do you see the program for the next 12 months? Are you planning further changes, or are you going to continue as you have been? I saw a comment just now saying what you're doing is a brilliant endeavor. I couldn't agree more. And I think, the impact that you've had is phenomenal. So I think it'd be interesting to hear how you will develop this going forward.
Thank you for that. Well, for 2021, 2022, we went fully online because the offline opportunities were entirely cut off. Even the indigenous villages stopped any possible in-person activities, even implemented by their own community. So that access was limited. We went fully online. And this allowed us to reach out to young people nationwide, which in person would have, again, been limited. This allows young people nationwide to bond, to meet people from areas where they haven't been, and it broadens their perspective as well. So there are advantages to full online delivery. But moving further, we have to admit that the online delivery has limited the access to some socioeconomic groups and some geographic areas that do not have the infrastructure to access this kind of education. So right now, the organization is planning the possibility of hybrid learning. So part online, part in person, but that's something to be tested out in 2022. Just imagine a classroom and a few young people studying in the class, but that class being streamed live, something similar to what's going on right now, and a few other students studying remotely, and in this way, taking the best of both worlds.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to move on now to Farah Noor from SAY, also in Malaysia. Welcome, Farah. So Farah is a CSR, community development, and responsible for social impact at SAY. And I believe you're working on a 9-week program with the Princess Trust. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yep. So thank you, Mihol, for the kind introduction. So with Princess Trust International, we are actually working on a 9-week project for underprivileged and marginalized youth to support them into employment, education, or training. I remember when we did few of the visits and groundwork before we started delivering the program, that we spoke to a lot of young people that we're going to engage with. And I received a particular question where this one young people asked me, have you ever had it rough? So I was taken aback by that question, actually. But soon I learned to realize that for these young people, privilege means the opportunity to have the choices. And they don't have the choices that they deserve, which is why we decided collectively with PTI to deliver this team program. So we offer personalized support, we offer interest and personality matching, and also post progression support, not just for the 9 weeks, but also post 3 months after they finish the program, so that we know that they are supported in a maximum capacity to accelerate their growth. So that is a little bit about team program.
And how does that fit into some of the other programs you run? Just give us a flavor about what else SAY does.
Yep. So similarly to Princess Ash International, SAY is also founded by a member of royal family who is a young people himself. So the Crown Prince of Selangor, who champions the cause for young people in 4 pillars. So we have community, but other than that, we have sports and health, we have entrepreneurship, as well as arts and creative. So with young people at the center of our cause. So a lot of our program and planning for the design happens in a human-centric approach for the young people. Yeah.
And with the programs that you have, we heard from Daniela how they've had to change the delivery. What sort of challenges have you faced, and how have you overcome them?
Yeah, I think for team program particularly, it was structurally designed for a full physical experience. And our partnership just came in January 2020. So we are relatively new in delivering the program. But with COVID in the picture, we had to really adapt quickly about the way we want to deliver to the young people. And as Daniela mentioned, there is no option to deliver it physically now. So we had to shift into online setting, which part of the program is that they have to go through a 5 stages. Within that 9 weeks, they have to go through like induction, where they get to know each other and set the tone for the rest of the program. And we have residential part, which is very important for them to get to know their strengths and weaknesses, but also the strengths and weaknesses of their team members, so that they get to build themselves together as a team and move forward. So these residential activities is always done physically before. And with COVID in the picture, we are forced to test it online, which has never tested before by any of other PTI global partners. And if anything, we learned that it works. It works with the right implementation and the right modules. So it has to be fun, it has to be engaging. But part of the challenge for us is also the young people environment. Now that we have to go into online, then we have to think that for these young people, it's not always conducive. We don't know what happens behind closed doors, for example. And some of them, they have problems in terms of devices, in terms of internet access. And even if we provide those, still connectivity is an issue because of the area that they stay at. So, and their motivation level, being in a prolonged lockdown situation, I think even Zoom CEO is having Zoom fatigue. And of course, for our young people themselves, they're having a fatigue. So we always try to think, and one of the key things that we do is we ask our young people to deliver the modules themselves, and it always works. And we invite the alumni to come in and conducted the modules, so peer-to-peer learning works. And another challenge I would think is the digital literacy, even for the young people and us. So when COVID happened, we had to test a lot of platforms, and the key is to choose which platform that is suitable for young people to navigate, even if they don't have the laptop. So how do they use the platform that we provide in a phone in mobile. So and we had to test with so many different cohorts and so many with different cohort we have different dynamic of young people, but we have a video that shows a snippet of what our young people have delivered online. Yeah.
Let's go to the video and then we'll carry on with some of the questions.
Selamat datang ke webinar Keganasan Rumah Tangga, Tika Cinta Jadi Derita.
Secara generalnya, keganasan rumah tangga ni obviously dia adalah satu keganasan ataupun satu perbuatan yang sengaja dilakukan oleh seseorang ataupun kumpulan ataupun komuniti.
Jumpa kes domestic violence ke or any other SGBV type, yang paling penting adalah pertama kita kena percayakan victim.
Akan mendapat sambutan bertuah. Jadi siapakah pemenang kita? Okey, itu dia tadi pemenang-pemenang kita. Tahniah saya ucapkan. Sekian daripada saya. Assalamualaikum.
Hai, 1, 2, 3.
One word daripada saya, satisfied.
Dia dah seronok lah dapat join program macam ni.
Lapar untuk ilmu.
Okay, I happy sebab dapat sudah jalankan kita punya webinar dengan berjaya.
It's a wrap!
Okay, so good morning semua. Berdasarkan teori Department of Team Development ni, kita akan lalui 5 peringkat ni.
Okay, 1 kilo and then 1 heaven. Yes, you're correct. Who's the champion? Drum roll. Team 6.
Korang dah ready ke belum ni?
Ready.
Patut mendapat berita bahawa Tuan Bendahara sedang membina singgasana yang diperbuat daripada emas.
Hebat! Hebat!
Setapak derap ini melangkah. Tidak mungkin berhenti lagi.
Occupation Fun Trivia.
Okay, clue dia mereka menggunakan komputer. Apa yang utama bagi saya minggu ni adalah kita berani bagi suara kita.
The best thing about today is kita dapat tengok semua orang punya bakat terpendam masing-masing.
Pemenang bagi minggu residensi adalah kumpulan pertama.
Oh, well done, not Malaysia.
Fantastic, really good to see. So 2 questions really come out of that, Farah. The first is that when you look at a digital experience, I mean, in my own case, when I teach, I find that teaching digitally is very different to teaching face-to-face, and your interactions are very different. Your ability to kind of build those relationships with students is different. But on the other hand, you get out to a much wider audience. You get out to more people that you wouldn't be able to otherwise, or people join in where if it was face-to-face, they may not be able to do that. So how do you balance those two, different things?
Yeah, thank you, Mehul. I think it's an important question. And we receive a lot of questions, similar question like that with our partners. I think the key here is to be flexible for us, because we have to understand previously before COVID, we deliver like physically for a full day. But now with COVID in the picture, we have to think of the situation of our young people. Like some of our young people, they are working part-time jobs. They are not able to commit to the full day session or the full week session. So I think it's important that we also get feedback from them. That is what we did before we move into online session. We asked for their reflections, whether or not this is the way that we want to move forward. And also, I think to be cautious of their limitations as well. Like we have a lot of young people who just don't know how to navigate this platform or this digital learning. And of course, your point about rapport building and then getting their trust, which what we did is we always break out into small sessions, small group, so that we engage with them and be able to focus with them. So we have in certain cohort, we have young people who up to week 4 still are not able to open their mic or open their camera, in fact. But afterwards, because we kept on asking them and checking in with them, so they started to actively participate and volunteer to can I conduct this session, can I be in the front right now. So which I think is amazing. It's amazing that we trust them and also listen to them. And so this is what we did in our organization, and how we deliver the team itself. I think it's important that we have to be flexible in the way we plan strategically and the way we deliver that. Yeah.
And that's fantastic. And so what you've managed to do is take what was a program designed for in-classroom, face-to-face type learning, made it completely digital, and still drive that impact. So I guess the question that would come to everybody's mind is, now that you're here, once COVID is over, do you see this as being a fully digital program ongoing, or are you going to go back to trying to deliver it face to face?
Yeah, I think now that we see that certain stages or certain areas works in online setting, so what we'll do moving forward is to do in a blended delivery approach or hybrid approach. So in the planning, especially for the community project, for example, or the residential or any of the stages, in the planning part, we can do online, and the implementation of the program can be physical. So which I think it gives a right balance to the young people, because the difference between delivering in online, full online and physical, is the connection that they have within their team members, but also with the community. It's different when they are delivering a full community project online and a full community project in physical setting. So we need that connection. We need them to be connected, or otherwise they will be trapped at home. And like Daniela mentioned, they are affected emotionally and socially. And young people like to make friends. They like to go out and see people. So which I think we have to find the right balance. So moving forward, we might what we'll do is 50% delivering it online, but 50% still. We don't want to lose that touch of that physical activities or connection. Yeah.
Fantastic. So a program that's going to become hybrid, which seems to be the way of the world now, and the new normal. Thank you so much, Farah. So Joe, if I could come back to you, what it seems, talking to your partners around the world, is that you've successfully managed to take what were perhaps planned as face-to-face type delivery programs, and from what I can see, done three very important things. One is put them online as far as possible, overcome challenges where you have people in remote places or infrastructure challenges, and also continue to drive impact and increase the numbers. I mean, that's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's been a real really interesting journey, and probably fast forwarded all of our progress in terms of virtual learning and digital learning because of the pandemic. And partners, as you can hear here, have just been exceptional at being able to do this, and very creative and innovative in their ways that they have. But I think, as Farah said, it's really important to recognise that face-to-face still has huge value, and we should, where possible, be ensuring that we can offer that to young people, especially with accessibility or data device issues. But also we live in a world now where young people are more connected digitally than ever before. And to stay relevant to young people, I think that we need to also be on that journey. Within PTI, we are considering other types of digital learning that are perhaps more low tech or accessible in other areas. So, for example, we've been developing content that can be accessible to young people via WhatsApp, which is hugely used across the world. And we're going to be piloting that. We've already sort of started within Barbados and Ghana to reach people, in a way that's perhaps different from an online learning website. And I think by ensuring that we keep relevant to what young people are using, so that we can find the right ways to engage with them on the right level, will be really important in terms of future growth and how we continue to reach more young people across the world.
Fantastic. And so from that, I mean, just picking up the point that Farah made, are you now looking at hybrid solutions to programs going forward? Is that going to become the default method of delivery wherever possible? Because it has huge advantages in terms of reach, I suspect, but also, I guess, if you overcome the infrastructure challenges, we know that young people are always engaged through digital media. So is that now going to be the new normal for you?
I don't think that we would ever have a default model. We're extremely needs-led, and we recognise that there are particular areas where that just wouldn't work, a hybrid model, and face-to-face is the most impactful model, and then we would follow that. But where we see that there's a benefit to a blended model or more online, then we would adapt towards that. But I think it's incredibly important to not make a general statement that everything will be blended going forward. I think that we need to look at each individual area individually and make an assessment based on that. But I think that we can see the advantages to being able to reach more young people. We can see the advantages to the fact that, 61% of young people last year said that they'd learned new skills online that they'd never learnt before. So there is great benefit. But as I said, we're very much a needs-led organisation, and we would work with our partners to really understand what the specific best model is. Obviously, when there's not a pandemic going on, which somewhat pushes our hand and might make decisions for us around that online learning.
So I guess, Joe, hearing what you've said, hearing the impact you've made, looking at the kind of work your partners are doing, I guess many people watching this will be inspired to connect with you, work with you, try and find ways to support you. How can they do that?
Brilliant. Well, I really hope people have enjoyed today and feel somewhat inspired. We definitely have an ambition as an organisation to continue growing and deepening our impact in all of the countries that we work in, the 13 countries last year, the 18 we're going to be working in this year, and we would like to further grow. So I would certainly say that if people are interested, want to know more, are keen to support us in investing in the future of young people and our strategic growth, then there's an email address going along the bottom of the screen that I can see now, and I would just encourage you to please do reach out. Obviously, we will be sharing our broader impact report following this call as well. So please do take a look at that, but we're really interested to hear from you.
And just to kind of pick that up a little bit more, so are you looking for people who could be potential partners and help with the delivery of the programs? Are you looking for people who could collaborate, who could invest in this program, or perhaps all of the above?
Yes, I think all of the above is a good statement, Rahul. I think certainly organisations, governments, NGOs, employers who are interested in helping us really drive that impact forward for young people would be absolutely people we would love to speak to and work with. Obviously, we do have ambitions for growth. We're currently within the current countries that we're in, but we do want to expand further over the coming years as well. So in terms of all of that, I think, Mahal, yes, we'd love to hear from people.
Fantastic. And as Joe said, the email address is at the bottom. Please get in touch, and we'll be sending out the impact report if you've registered for this event. If not, please reach out and we'll happily share it with you. So our time is coming to an end, and I'd just like to say a very, very big thank you to Joe from the Princess Trust and your partners, Mohammed, Farah, and Daniela. It's been an amazing discussion this morning. And I have to say, I am not just amazed, but also very happy to see that, despite the challenges, that you've not only adapted, but you've grown and you've continued to make such positive impact. And I think it's such a wonderful thing because, it's what people need right now, young people. And many of them I've seen, who through lockdown are at home, are not going to school, not meeting their friends, and this is not a great environment for young people. And to see somebody who is, driving critical skills that are going to help them through the rest of their lives is absolutely amazing and fantastic. And so thank you so much for that. Lovely to have you all on. For the rest of you, I wanted to wish you all a wonderful new year and a peaceful and prosperous coming year. We hope that the pandemic challenges go down a bit, and perhaps we could do some of this face to face in the coming year. We'll be back probably around February with a new webinar. But in the meantime, look after yourselves, stay safe, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Mahal.